So our brand got voted the third fastest growing skincare brand in the world last year. And that's largely because of our ability to create these psychology-based ads. And Sarah Levengard's been instrumental in that. She has this unique system called the core identity map that allows you to understand your customers at a deeper level. And that's like the foundation for all the ads you're gonna create. So in this video, I'm doing a deep dive with Sarah into the core identity map to show you how to do this inside of your own brand, so that creates the foundation for all your ads moving forward. And I'm telling you now, this is gonna allow you to scale to $1 million a month easily without any effort at all. So make sure you watch until the end. All right guys, so Sarah Levengard is in the house. Oh my God, I'm so excited for this. So every time Sarah works with Q, I leave with anxiety after every call. It's because every time she comes every call, honestly, but every time it's like just mind boggling. I think the biggest things that we learned from you was a lot centered around the emotional stuff, right? You're an expert in behavioral psychology, but that book you got me to read, Marketing Mind States, if anyone
Yeah.
hasn't read, is a great book. And I believe a lot of your foundational work stems off that. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. That book kind of like completely changed how I view any sort of marketing, mostly because it was the first time I had ever read a book where they had applied actual emotion to marketing. So you could see like the connection between the two. I think a lot of times we talk about emotion in marketing, but when we talk about emotion, we're talking about just like urgency,
Yeah.
scarcity, almost like these like push emotions,
Yeah.
not the pull ones. So yeah, that book
And
changed everything for me.
And then to
100%.
take it a step further, now what we're doing with you is something called, what did you call it? What do we call it? The core identity map,
Hmm.
which is something so new and obviously it's in your lane, right? It's like
Yep.
evoking emotions through people via images when you're creating surveys, not just text-based, which gives you
100%.
a completely different answer because people are probably getting outside of their head a bit when they're answering the questions, I assume, but you'll give us a
Yep.
bit more about that. But you've got a whole process. I'm not sure how deep you're going to go, but you're going to share with us like exactly how you're doing it, what results you've got maybe, and why it works so well. But it's like, this is
Yeah.
like the new way to do avatars, huh?
100%.
All
Well,
right.
and it's quite interesting. And I love that you brought up avatars because
Yeah.
most of the time when I'm talking to marketers, founders, people who are working in ecom or even just anywhere in marketing, when we talk about avatars, almost everybody brings up like a sheet. They're always like, here's
Mm.
my avatar.
Mhm.
Like I have this document and it's usually pretty static. It's like her name is like Rachel and she lives in Chicago. She's got
Yeah.
2 cats. She makes 150,000 a year. Those type of things. The difficult part about that, even if you get down into like a little bit of pain points for Rachel, nobody can tell me really why Rachel buys. They just know that she exists. So I kind of went on like this deep rabbit hole in the last couple years, trying to figure out how do I actually come up with a customer avatar sheet, ICP, like whatever you want to call it. How do I come up with targeting that's a little bit more aligned with what the science says about like how people purchase? So before we like dive into CIM, one of the things that I always like to tell people is obviously in marketing, we're just trying to get people to come into the ecosystem, enjoy what we have long enough and understand the value so that they purchase. Now,
Yeah.
the toughest part about this is you can't always tell why people purchase or who is going to purchase, right?
Mm.
So I tried for a couple years to work off of like target lists or customer profiles, ICPs, those type of things. But the most difficult part about it was there's too many. Like
Yeah.
there's too many customer avatars and they all purchase for like seemingly different reasons. Like they might purchase the same product, but they all seem like they're coming in for different things. Some people
Yeah.
might purchase a supplement because they're trying to like build muscle. Some just purchase it because they know they need more protein. Some people purchase it because they're supplementing something else. So in general, I started to look at kind of what like big market research was doing when they developed their avatars, because obviously the big businesses have like full teams that study consumers. One of the things that I identified was there was a study, and I need to go figure out. Oh, I need to go find this one because I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2016. There was a study that they ran specifically on understanding responses to survey questions, because that's typically where we get our avatars from, is
Mm.
post-purchase surveys, quizzes, those type of things. And what they found was people actually respond a whole lot better to images than they do to text. So, and actually, I can draw.
Please
Oh,
do.
let me share my screen real quick. So, it was really interesting when I found this particular study because what I found was when you walk through the process of like actual purchasing, people usually have about three different things that they like encompass when they purchase, right? So, and let me know if you can't see this like buy screen. But when it comes to actual behavior of purchasing, there's basically three different things that we walk through. First one is obviously it's got to be an emotional kind of a decision. When we look at purchasing things outside in our ecosystem, it has to come down to like our core feelings, what we feel about the product itself. Emotional triggers, meaning like, am I tired that day? Have I not eaten lunch? Like, what's going on in my ecosystem in my life that I'm struggling with or that I feel open to kind of purchasing things. And then obviously the post purchase experience. So I'm not talking like post purchase surveys. I'm talking about like what's the experience of actually using the product once I get it. So emotion is a heavy player when it comes to buying behavior. Secondary to this, I would say, is behavioral. This has to do with more like how you actually think about the world. So, generational behavior is really interesting because it changes depending on what age you are and what generation you're a part of. And that mostly has to do with parenting styles, which we can go into if you want. But outside of this, seasonality obviously is going to change like how much I purchase, what I purchase, where I purchase it from, and then cultural things. If there's anything changing inside the culture, my behavior is going to shift either towards or away specific products depending on what I believe. So those two things I think marketers have like a decent-ish handle on. Identity is the one that I like focus though, because while I was going through these studies, the thing that kept coming up over and over is sometimes you'll get people to respond to images in ways that they would never respond to in a text format.
Yep.
So with identity, there's internal beliefs that happen. And this has to do with like who you believe you are as a person. So for Sarah, as a consumer, I believe I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, like I'm a friend, I'm a sister, like whoever it is. Those internal beliefs were built over the course of my entire life and they sort of morph as we get older, but for the most part, they're pretty static. They stay pretty solid. Industry beliefs is second to this. So, like what I believe about the actual industry. If I'm going after supplements and I believe the industry is just like full of not great products, I might actually do more research. It might take me longer to purchase just because of that internal belief. And then aspirational belief. So, that has to do with more what do I think about the world in general? Do I feel comfortable in my life currently? Is there something happening that's causing a little bit of friction so that I either purchase a lot to kind of, I don't know, what's the word, like stave off that emotion, or I won't purchase at all just because I'm too nervous about where the world is. So all three of these things have to line up when we start to look at avatars and how
Like
people actually
one
purchase.
from each.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not one from each. Usually I have to get really close to all of these. You can lean one way or the other. And I notice marketers lean heavy on emotion. So we go after urgency, scarcity, those type of things. But for the most part, I like to see advertising that aligns with all three of these. I want us to go after the correct emotions, the
Yeah.
correct behavior, and whichever identity they're currently shopping in.
And the interesting about this stuff, like for you, it applies to any brand, right? Any
Any
niche.
brand. Yep. Because it's, yeah, this is consumer
Agnostic. Yeah,
research.
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yep.
say,
Yep. Yep.
"Oh, it's not work for my band. It's just apparel." No, it does. Like it's really
Yep.
agnostic. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Well, and it's interesting because you start to notice patterns within certain industries or within certain products. We've done this enough time. We've ran like 40-ish CIMs now, all across a bunch of different industries. And we're starting to see patterns between duplicate brands. So if we have, say, like two fragrance brands,
Yep.
even if they're across the world from each other, we just had this happen actually. Somebody from the UK that ran a fragrance brand, somebody from the US, buyer behavior is very similar because humans are very similar. Even if you come from a different culture, different background, your reasons for purchasing are often pretty closely aligned with what all the other humans on the planet are kind of experiencing, which is nice for me because just from an empathetic standpoint, I'm like, we're all so similar. That makes me
Yeah.
so happy.
And do you know what's funny? Because I just did a training on this. It's pretty much trying to get people
Mm.
to understand their product better because this is part of their
Yeah.
product. That's the way I look
Yes.
at it, right? It's like
Oh my God. Yeah.
your product's understanding its products, its features, and benefits, its unique mechanism. But this is the shit that really matters when selling your product. And if you don't know
100%.
this, you can't do anything else.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and I love that you bring that up that like this is a part of your product
Yeah.
because this is the product.
This is the product. Yeah,
Your
exactly.
product, and that's the most interesting part about studying humans and get really deep
Yeah.
into the consumer psychology of it, is most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, especially when it comes to an emotional purchase, if it's like a what we call a hedonic product, meaning it's just for like funsies, it's just like for pleasure. If you have that style of product and you're selling it to a consumer, they are not really purchasing that product to solve a problem or to like, get a job done, those type of things. They're helpful for marketers, but for
Yeah.
the most part, they're buying that almost as like a representation of what they already believe. It's a physical way to purchase an emotional feeling that they already have. So I always tell people like you can think of this as like pizza. When you go and buy pizza, it's not like you're trying to solve hunger, yes, but you could solve hunger in millions of different ways. You have food in your house, right? So you could probably solve it. Pizza in particular though solves one specific emotion and it's usually the emotion of it's Friday,
Mm.
like I don't want to cook. I've worked all week, I deserve a treat. So then we walk through and we purchase something that solves that need of like treat yourself.
Yeah, and we in EA and Ecomm Architects, we're teaching them to try and be hyper personalized with their messaging, right? We call like spherical scaling, and especially now creative diversification is like the key, and but it's like going to be
Yeah.
hyper personalized. But what we even saw with you, I remember you did like one image ad for us. This is back in the day where Sarah's was easy to access. These days, you got to pay thousands of dollars for a time
Oh
machine.
gosh.
This doesn't apply to you. No, no, I'm joking. But and you did like an ad, like an image ad for us, and scaled to like $1,000 a day. And it was just because
Mm,
of like the headline alone, because it spoke to someone at their emotional state at a
yes.
specific time and a specific moment, and that just resonated with them. It's
Yep,
insane.
yep, yep, yep. And I always love those type of like little wins that we get. Little wins. I mean, that one was like a decent like player in the ad account. But I always love those specific instances because there's staying power when you hit it just right. And
Mm,
that I think honestly, a lot of it comes down to developing like deep levels of empathy. Empathy, I think, is a muscle. Like everybody can be super, super deep empathetic, because empathy really just has to do with how well can you understand the exact situation that someone's going through. Most of
mm,
the time, I think in marketing, we go one level deep, right? So we go and say something like, she wants to lose 30 pounds. I'm sure she feels like not comfortable in her body. She wants to feel more confident, but it's deeper than that. Like losing weight or, upgrading your wardrobe or buying dog toys or like getting a new book for your child. All of these different things are just so complex because there's just deep buried beliefs underneath it and experiences, really. And so it's not just about losing weight. It's possible that it's about like showing her high school bully that she's better now. She's okay now and she doesn't have to like go backwards and deal with that kind of thing that just really rocked her in her teens, right?
mm.
And this is for every product. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Now, the interesting part about this is you got to be careful because obviously we want to be empathetic towards people, but we don't want to trigger people in an awful way. Like you don't want to bring up traumas that
No.
people have that they just don't want to think about. So this is the reason why I always tell marketers you got to study how people want this delivered, and this is the reason why the CIM is freaking fantastic. So the CIM was built to pull out these little nuances of why do they feel that way, what did they feel, and then specifically how do they want us to talk to them about this? Because some people like Sarah, I need it pretty direct. Like you just tell me what you need me to do and then I'll go do it type of thing, right? Some people need it way, way
Like,
less
give us an
abrupt.
example. If it's like weight loss, like someone say, "Hey, you're fat, and you need to lose weight." The other person
Yeah.
says, "Hey, you're big boned," or is that a good example?
I'm done.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. Well, and I see this a lot in supplements
yeah,
where we're running a whole lot of messaging that talks about like, it's time to lose the weight.
mm,
You've waited long enough. Like lose 10 pounds in the next 90 days or whatever it is. And
yeah.
I'm like, "Ew, not everybody's going to be receptive to that kind of messaging. Some people are going to be much more receptive to just like, you're fine the way you are. Like, you're good. You
And
don't have to lose weight if you don't want to.
this just
But if you
reminds
do, we have something for you."
And sorry, this just reminded me of something as well, which is
Mm.
interesting. I was speaking to the head of growth of Loop recently.
Yes.
He's doing some
Okay.
work
Yeah.
with us as well as a consult. He just left anyway. And he was just telling me how he's worked with a lot of nine-figure brands now, how the certain consumers will just buy in a certain style, meaning that some
Mm.
consumers will buy via quiz funnel, and that's
Yep.
just them. Some will just buy via UGC, some will just buy via doctor. Like
Yes.
literally, people just have different buying patterns based on what resonates with them, and literally you could have, yeah, same funnels, but then some will just like buying
100%.
by quiz funnel, and that's it.
100%. And this is the reason why I think people always get this like idea in their head that diversity is everything. That
Yeah.
has nothing to do with Meta's ad account. That's not an algorithm thing.
No, it's, yeah, it's just
Diversity is a human
people thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
exactly.
true.
Well,
Yeah,
it just cracks me up because everybody's like, Meta wants diversity, the algorithm. I'm like, it
yeah.
has nothing to do with the algorithm. It's just because there's so many different types of humans out there
Yeah.
and everybody wants the message delivered like a little bit differently. So it's a benefit to the ad account, yes, but it's a benefit to the humans you're speaking to because some people are going to want the message delivered pretty softly.
Yep.
And some people are just be blunt, like just give me the truth, tell me the freaking truth, because there's such little truth out here in the world these days.
Mm.
Oh,
I know.
I can't get enough. Okay.
I know we're ranting, but also like just please while we're doing this, can we operationalize a lot of these things for people and then give them
Yes.
like really clear first steps? Because there's like a million things they can do, but like it's the one thing they should start off with. You know what I mean? Like what?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean like during
yeah.
this, like, you might do this process, but you just go after one specific angle or avatar at a time. I don't know. Like you give me the playbook, but
Yes. Okay. So this is something that I have currently been testing and it's been working incredibly well. If you're going to test this style of like advertising the ad account, one of the best ways to start doing this is to take your concepts, whatever it is that you're testing. If you have a soft message and like a more abrupt message, build out basically a stack of ads that just deliver that message and launch them together. And this is new for me. Like I used to test basically one ad at a time. Like, we used
Yeah,
to
yeah,
use 9 ads. Every single one of them was totally different, right? Like
yeah,
different
yeah.
messaging, all kinds of different things. I've kind of backed away from that slightly, mostly because I have found that Meta seems to have an easier time delivering all of these ads if I give it like a bunch of data around the message first. So for instance, when I run sprints, usually I run a sprint basically every single week. Each sprint maybe 5 ads in it. I don't run a whole lot of volume these days just because I find it to be incredibly wasteful
Yeah.
and very, very, very difficult to manage. So I'm like precision focused marketer. So I will run 5 different ads. The very top level, really good solid UGC or pro video of some sort, right? Just something that they can watch. So develop some sort of a movie at the top and then develop all of your supporting marketing pieces of that movie beneath it. So we have one UGC, we'll have maybe 3 statics, and then maybe you might have like a GIF or a carousel or something on the bottom where it's just like overcoming objections or supportive language
But
or
around the same
deliver. Yeah.
message.
Same message. Yeah. Yeah. So if
Format.
my message is like, you're totally fine the way you are, but
Yeah.
when you're ready to lose weight, or if you need to lose weight, or if like you feel like it's time, we're here for you. That's the core UGC.
So
So then the
you
next three
pick like
statics.
two different messages that you're going to test, but then
Yep.
to have 5 different formats of each
5
message
different
to
formats.
make sure. Yeah, that's
Yep,
it.
yep. And then launch them all at the same time. Yeah. Now
That's
you'll
it.
find with this, usually the video is going to eat spend, but you'll get about 2 weeks into it, and all of a sudden your statics will just freaking take off. And then the entire campaign will sit and stabilize. At least from what we've seen. And we've tested this with quite a few brands actually recently, all kinds of different industries. And I think my hypothesis around this is with so many different messages in the ad account, I think Meta has kind of a hard time understanding the entire account.
Mhm.
Like, who the heck is this account going after? And I personally believe, I think Meta's having a hard time, honestly, because
Yeah.
up until now, that algorithm was made so that it could process like several million ads a day because we're dumping millions of ads into the ad account. As soon as ChatGPT could make ads, like earlier this year in
Everyone
April,
went nuts.
now it's like 10x.
Mm.
And I think the algorithm was like, oh God, so please slow down. Like it just rained all these ads. And so I think, yeah, I think Meta was like, I don't even know who to send this to because I don't have time to process all these. So instead of going after these like one concept at a time, but just like 17 million of them, I go after batches of 5 that are basically like a mini movie, kind of like a campaign. We have a movie at the top that's UGC, and then we have a couple supporting pieces after it that go after testimonials, mashups, objection proofing, those type of things, and then straight up just delivering the offer.
Love that.
Yeah.
Good.
I love this stuff.
That's
It's
good.
so interesting. Okay. So the CIM though, and this is where this kind of comes into play. How do you know which one of those messages to run?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now we got to get down into like what type of messages should we actually push forward into the ad account? So I have a love-hate relationship with surveys because I've done way too much studying on this and I went
Hey,
down a rabbit
well,
hole.
have you tried Listen AI? Listen.ai.
Ooh, no. I'm gonna have to write this one down.
Oh, okay.
Is it
So this is
good?
what I'm doing now, and for everyone listening, this essentially it's a post-purchase survey where it's
Mm.
like video, but it's AI, and the
Oh,
questions will change based on the response. So it's almost
holy
like a
cow.
person doing, it, but not a person doing it. So then, our hypothesis is that they'll feel a bit more comfortable giving answers to kind of like a robot and being slightly maybe more harsh.
Yeah.
They will a person, right, on the other side. So it's called
So
Listen.ai. We did our first run. I can share the results for you offline and see what you think.
yeah. Is this like a okay, so in this survey, listen, is it like somebody talking to you? Like the
Pretty
AI
much.
responds?
Yeah, it's an AI response. There's a couple ways you can do it, but
Whoa.
it's like a video. It's like a video,
Okay.
or it's just text. You choose, but
Oh
the questions do change based on the answer, and they keep just laying on new questions,
God.
understanding the answer. So it's like using
Love
a
this.
human brain, but not a human there. Because you know what, it's
That's
interesting. Because like I recently I always have like a spiritual coach, a business coach, and a health coach. And my latest
smart.
spiritual coach is the first guy that doesn't use video. And he's asking
Oh.
me these deep questions, but then it made sense to me after because I felt more comfortable
Mhm.
answering the questions when I couldn't see the person. Then the guy looking in my eye, like, what trauma do you have or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I think, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Oh
yeah. So I think
my
it's,
God. I'm dying.
yeah,
Oh, that is so interesting. Well, and
yeah,
I find it really fascinating because they talk about the fact that There's a couple studies I've read. AI does a lot better and people are a little bit more trusting with it when it says I'm an AI, just
Yeah, yeah,
upfront.
yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not a real person. But they also do a lot better when the AI makes mistakes. And I would love to see if Listen has this,
Mm.
where the AI will either respond with like pauses or will say
Uh-huh.
because for them, making it a little bit more human and making that kind of like
Yeah.
purposeful mistake does a lot better when people answer questions. This is interesting though, because similar to like how the CIM runs, all we're trying to do is get them to walk down their own rabbit hole. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a consumer and I'm just like, okay, what it like, even running interviews or doing any kind of surveys,
Yeah.
why did you purchase this? Or like, what was your reasoning behind it? They can't even tell you. Like
Mm.
they'll give you the logical reasoning. And this is the reason why I'm like, be careful when you
Do
study
both.
your reviews,
Yeah.
because I used to run lots and lots and lots of NLPs based upon reviews. So NLP is natural language processing. I used to take down all these reviews, run it through these systems just to categorize them into emotional categories, which was very helpful for Sarah because I can tell here's the emotions that they solved, right? They're giving me their after emotion inside the reviews.
Mm.
I saw a lot of people started doing this early in like 2024, 2025. But the problem was, I think most marketers assumed those emotions are the ones we should go after. And I'm like, no, 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 slow down. Those emotions inside the reviews are what they felt after they solved the original emotion.
Yeah.
So
So
you
true.
can't run it straight towards look good, feel confident, blah, 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 because that's not technically what they were going after. That's just what they felt after they solved that emotion.
So true.
Ooh, so this is why I'm
Ju-
like, be careful. Just be
Juice.
careful, people. Ooh, so I always tell people, go after the opposite of whatever it was.
Yeah.
So if the output is confidence, what was the inverse? It's usually what's the word? Insecurity.
Insecure. Yeah.
Insecurity is like the opposite
Yeah.
of
Funny. And
that.
then on all our pages, it's all about confidence, but it really should be
Yeah.
fighting insecurity.
Insecurity. Yeah, yeah. And it's quite interesting because insecurity comes out in all kinds of different ways. So, and we could go into a rabbit hole on like the differences
Yeah.
between confidence and composure, which is what most consumers, especially if you're in beauty right now, composure is what consumers are actually craving, not necessarily confidence, which is different from like early 2000s. It's shifted just slightly. It's similar emotion, but they're like just a little bit different. So, okay.
All right.
We're going to go down to rabbit holes today. You and me are just going to like, okay. So when it comes to surveys, though, if you're running a post purchase or a quiz, or if you have like email blasts that go out or whatever towards your audience, and you're trying to get information on why did you purchase, what did you love, what can we do more of, I caution you against running anything that has text included, specifically like this, where you have question up at the top, and then you have like just a subgroup of things at the bottom, right? This multiple choice style question is not necessarily bad. The format is okay. What's kind of a problem is anytime you run a text-based question, the person answering that question has to be good at two things. They have to be good at reading and they have to be good at comprehension. If you took your SATs in high school or college and you did not get a very high score on reading or comprehension, there's a good chance that you're probably not going to be able to take these surveys easily,
Mm.
which is what I want. I want emotional responses, not logical ones.
Yeah.
So I have a love-hate relationship with text in a survey because it's difficult for, I mean, most of the United States right now reads at like a ninth grade reading level. So if you have very complex answers in here, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, that's really difficult for someone to like just
Yeah. What
very
does it
quickly
mean?
answer.
Yeah.
So for one thing, if you're going to run it this way, you have to get very, very simple with your answers. But two, it causes people to button mash. Just like get through the survey. I don't even care what's going on. So most of the time, your survey is a decent portion of it, at least, excuse me, is going to be inaccurate.
And the worst part about all that is we base our creative strategy based on these answers.
Yep, yep, yep. And this is why I'm like, please stop. Don't run it off of your surveys. Yeah. And I know a lot of brands are really, really careful about like what they run in their surveys and what they ask, but we're asking the same questions across basically every single industry, every single brand. A lot of it is like, where did you first hear about us? What did you like most? Why did you purchase today? Which is like, these questions lead a lot of logical reasoning, which is not at all the reason why they
Yeah. So,
purchase.
so maybe the post purchase should be more about attribution tracking, logical
100%.
stuff, and that's about it. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. It should primarily be mostly about like where do you remember seeing us is one
Yeah.
of the questions I ask. Not where did you come from or like where did you, come in from just like a from like a platform standpoint. more about which ad do you remember seeing. So I know you can do this with no commerce, but you can show images on the back end of your post-purchase survey asking specifically which of these pieces of organic do you remember seeing, and then just
You
show
can
the
do that
actual
on
images.
e-commerce, really.
Yeah, you can do that on no commerce. Yeah.
Um,
No commerce is getting good, man. They're getting so good at what they do. So no commerce can do this if you guys want to. I don't know if Fairing can. There's a couple other platforms that you could do.
yeah,
But on the back end, you can also ask things like, which of these ads do you remember seeing? That way they can click on the one that's like, oh yeah, I have seen that, right?
yeah,
I
okay.
want to get data around what they remember. Recall is very difficult. That's why I don't leave it open ended. Don't ever ask somebody like, where did you first hear about us?
Yeah,
Horrible question. Because you're asking someone to remember. I mean, people can't even remember what they ate for breakfast. Like they're not going to be able to remember where they saw you. So you got to be really careful with asking these questions because recall usually changes. Every time you have to bring up a memory, your brain will change teeny tiny little instances of that memory based upon what you're experiencing now. And that's just how memory works. It's like a really weird mechanism. But in general, when you ask somebody these type of questions, I would lean away from text and try really hard not to lead anybody to the answer. Otherwise, you'll get inaccurate data. So instead of doing it this way, we usually build it into picture-based questions. Now, that means the answers are going to be pictures. Obviously, the question is still going to be text and they still have to read it. That question is very carefully formulated so we don't lead any answer. So we're not trying to get them to a specific spot. It's also almost always a metaphorical question. And this is on purpose. So we will have this range of pictures and we try really hard to account for diversity, for age, for like setting. Like you have to be super, super cautious with this because again, any sort of deviation inside the pictures could also lead somebody to click on one just because it's weighted heavily visually. So when you go through and build these, make sure that you're picking images that look like they were all taken by the same photographer and they were all taken in the same like photo shoot. Mostly because if she had a red shirt on, people might just click on her because she has a red shirt on because it looks heavier than everything else. So you want blended, right? Make it pretty even across the board. Secondary thing you want to do. I usually lead these with metaphorical questions. So when I say metaphorical, I'm talking like the weirdest questions you've ever heard. But I'm doing this specifically so that I can get an association connection. So, for instance, we ask one of the questions that we ask most often is if this product was a superhero, which one would it be and why? We love this question because if we show them Batman, Superman, like Superwoman, Spider Woman type of thing, we can get kind of a little bit of sentiment behind it. Of okay, this product is for sure Batman. Then we can follow up with a question of like, that's interesting. Why did you pick Batman? Or like, why that particular one? And then they can tell us, oh, well, it's because Batman is like super strong. He's very resourceful. He wasn't like born with superpowers, but like he's really, really on it. Like the guy just goes hard at it, or whatever they say, you know?
yeah,
So, and doing it in this style gets you association emotion, but it also gets you logical reasoning for that emotional decision, if that makes sense.
yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are running anywhere. Our surveys usually run like 20 to 25 questions. So they're not like crazy, crazy long.
And
We
it's
try and keep it somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes of completion time if we can.
and it's important to note that what we did with Sarah, we ran cold ads, right? We
That's
ran,
right. Yep.
we ran ads to cold audience. Oh, you're gonna get into that. Sorry.
Yep. 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 So we build these in type form. You can basically build them in any platform that will allow you to run images with your questions. But excuse me, goodness, I'm dying today. We run these to two different audiences. So we run these to cold traffic through the ad account, and then we run it to warm traffic through the email list. Now, this is on purpose. I like to get two different pieces of like data to analyze on the back end. Mostly because I find that post purchase is really interesting. People get the post purchase survey in. They just assume that this is the word of the customer. This has to be correct, but they never compare it to any other piece of data to see what does that mean when somebody says this. So again, I can tell you what your post purchase says. I can't tell you what it means unless I have something to compare it to.
Mm.
So I love to run this to warm and cold. That way I can get two pieces of data in and I can tell you your warm traffic responds like this, but your cold traffic responds like this, which is totally different than your warm traffic. And I've run enough of these now that we see very drastically different responses in the cold and the warm traffic. Cold is usually very value focused for basically any industry. They're very focused on like, am I getting the best deal here? Am I gonna parting with my money is painful. Like, is this gonna make up for that pain that I'm about to go through? Warm audience is totally different. They often seem to go after more emotional connection Durability seems to be one that's really common that we see. People really just want something that's going to last a long time, or possibly, what's the word? Like longevity.
Yeah.
So for the fragrance brands that we ran this for, UK and US had the same exact response on the warm side. They talked a lot about, I need something that's just going to last me longer than like 2 months because I use this twice a day or once a day or whatever it is. So run these to two different audiences and then compare the data together. Don't ever take one piece of like data, one survey, and assume that that's correct because we don't know why they answered that way. We just know what they said. So yeah, it's so fascinating. I can't get enough of it. Okay. Outside of this, let me show you guys what this looks like when it's completed. Because
Yeah.
obviously, any sort of survey is super interesting, fascinating, but I always tell people do not pay for research unless it comes with application. Because if you can't apply it, it's basically just wasted money. So let me pull up. This was a CIM that we ran for a brand in the compression sock industry, which I thought was really interesting. They had some fascinating stuff to share. um, their CIM was interesting because they came to us with this core problem of like, okay, we understand our customers sort of, but the problem that we're having is we keep drawing at a pretty old audience. For some reason, it's like 50s plus, and we really want to go younger. And the opposite side, they don't know how to keep people in. They would come in and buy like one or two pairs of socks, and then they would just dip out. So we came in and ran the CIM outside of just like general demographic information. We'll always study like how many male females are in here, which generation is coming in for these types of surveys, those type of things. It's these types of questions that I find the most interesting. So we ran a question straight to these 4 images that just talks about if choosing compression socks were like picking a car, which image best represents what matters to you? So we showed them 4 different images, had this question. The way they answered was fascinating. So cold audience, pretty predominantly weighted towards value. I want good bang for my buck. And identity, meaning I want it to match who I am. I want socks that have like, dogs on them. I
Mhm.
want socks that has SpongeBob on it. I want socks for nurses or socks for construction workers. I want it to be my sock, not just any sock. Now, how did we figure this out? Well, we gave them these ranges of images and then we tracked which one they clicked most often. And then the very next question after this was what we call a context question. So it just said, that's interesting. Why did you choose that image? They told us when they clicked on this, we could segment the data down.
Yep.
Anybody that clicked on this car said, well, it's an identity connection. They use the phrasing. It's about like who I am as a person. I just like I'm a nurse and I really like socks that fit the nursing culture. These are the type of phrases that they were using so we can tell identity was very important to them. Outside of this car, we saw a whole lot of cash being clicked, which I thought was really interesting. They said things though like I want it to be affordable was language they used a lot. Or I want a good value. I want a good bang for my buck. I want to make sure that I'm getting my money's worth. So this is how we can tell value and affordability is important to them. So we never put any sort of like of our own biases on this.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Sarah made sure that this one was identity focused. I gave them a range of what I thought was probably important to them and let them tell me this is what I want out of this.
Interesting.
So cold traffic was really interesting.
Then
Warm traffic, opposite. Totally opposite. So warm traffic, we saw a lot of this. Like I want it to be very, very durable. 38%. We're talking about this like 37.6. Identity was second. So both audience, cold and warm, want this identity focused sock. But warm traffic wants you to talk about value and about this is a good deal. Cold traffic, sorry. Warm traffic wants you to talk about like durability. This is going to last a long time. This is a good sock, basically. Crazy.
So then, so then, how do you, in terms of the creative strategy side and product development side, how do you look at that? It's like
Yes.
people want to
100%.
people kind of want to be brought into the funnel with some amazing offer
Yeah.
that they can't say no
Mhm.
to, and they just want to make sure that the fucking socks last,
100%. Yep.
and
Yep.
and in their own style and whatever.
100%. Yeah. So for this brand, and this was interesting. Let me see if I can go back real quick here. So for these guys, one of the issues that they had, like I said, is they had like a pretty old customer coming in. And I think it was because on the front end, they just kept talking so much about the compression.
Hmm.
Their like initial messaging just went so hard at compression. And I kept telling them none of the younger generation really cares about compression from what we see in the data. It's all about identity and it's all about value. And that's it. So you guys need to switch all of your ads over towards you can get 5 socks for $15 and talk specifically about like Here's SpongeBob socks. Here's Halloween socks. Here's like Valentine's Day socks, whatever it is, right? Just get real hard on the pattern.
Yeah.
Instantly, freaking overnight, just immediate in the ad account, like just skyrocketed. But the one case study for them that was really, really interesting, and this we can walk deeper into these case studies if you want. But for these guys, it was a CRO test that lifted a ton for them. So they saw a 10% increase in conversion rate on this one particular page, which increased sales, 300 additional units sold for this particular test. And the test that they ran was specifically towards this like value and durability. They just put like basically two buttons on there, one that talked about this is a good value and one that talked about this is just durable. And that was it. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Two buttons. That's it. That was all they needed. So they only added those two elements to the site, no budget increase. They didn't even increase spend. They didn't change their ads. They just changed those two buttons on the CRO side.
I
And
think we could
that
go
was
through a
enough.
couple more case studies just to give the guys the belief that how important this is and how this can literally
Crazy.
change the business.
Crazy, crazy, crazy important. So, okay, yes. This was for Crazy Compression. The one that I saw that was the best, I mean, like, just the most amazing case study was Original Rated. I've worked with them for 4 years now. We ran a lot of this stuff for them in, it was like 2022. It was like way a long time ago. These guys saw a 35% increase in AOV by using this particular style of like insight gathering, right? AOV and LTV grew by 35%. Overall revenue increased by 25%. And this was within a 6-week period. For these guys, the core insight that we pulled from the CIM was a couple different things. For women, it was very, because they have split audience. So they have women buying for their husbands and then they have guys buying for themselves. For women, there was one message that talked about show your man that he's worth every second. That one specific message of like he's worth it was really sensitive for these women. And that particular ad was the one that generated this giant AOV spike. The opposite side, though, we just ran our last CIM for them towards the male audience. What did Nate say? He said he didn't tell me the figures, which I'm like, come on, man. He said it's a 6-figure difference, is what he told me.
Yeah,
But
wow.
this guy, one of their designers, was focused heavily on this, like, you deserve a watch. You deserve a watch. Deserve was the phrase that they used. The CIM identified that nobody in their ecosystem felt like they deserved things. They wanted to earn it. So all they did was went back to their ads and switched the word deserve to the word earned. 6-figure difference. I was like,
That's
yeah.
insane. Ridiculous.
So this is why I'm like, this stuff is so interesting, guys. Like, it sounds like real weird and like woo woo, like I'm using metaphorical questions and pictures. That's just weird. But the difference is kind of drastic because you can do things like this. Where Billion Dollar Beauty was one that I ran ages ago. Specifically, I had this really interesting. Let me see if I can show you. It's these replaceable kind of like makeup kits that have magnets on the back of them. And so we had this really interesting ad that I ran that just said, oh, and I'm trying to remember the original static, something to the effect of like buy once, refill for life. And that ad in particular, 40% decrease in CPA overnight. That was within like a
Buy
24-hour
once,
test.
refill for life. Why?
Yep.
Why did that work?
Yeah. So buy once, refill for life seems like a very utilitarian style like messaging. And that was the most interesting part is these guys beauty wise, before we ran any sort of like research for them, Billion Dollar Beauty was running a straight emotional, like confidence building message. And I was like, from what I can tell from the research, your customer doesn't care at all. Because they can get makeup anywhere. They can get
Yeah,
confidence anywhere. What
yeah.
they want is specifically a utilitarian. It was that durability, like, holding up type of a thing. So this message of like buy once, refill for life suits their need for not over like filling their cabinets with makeup because that was their core problem.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We might
40%
use,
decrease in
we might
CPA.
use that one. We have a refillable serum coming out.
Oh, yes. Just it. Buy once, refill for life. Anybody in here who has that like built into your marketing and into your products, please use it. Steal it because that ad ran for this particular one that was UGC ran for 8 months, but that static ran for almost 2 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. So you got to know, like you have to do the studying and the deep dives to figure out what is it that they actually want. Because sometimes it's not an emotional depth. Sometimes it's literally just get me
And,
some good value.
and I think it's also beyond that. Like, there's that concept of semantic satiation, right? Like, the mind is
Mm,
just going to consistently pour over things they've seen 1,000 times. And it's like everyone's just copying everyone. It's just the repeated same messaging time and time again.
It's so bad.
And
Yep.
especially in e-commerce, a lot of people are selling commodity products. Let's be real. Everyone's selling a cream that's the exact same as someone else's cream. So literally your messaging is your way that you can differentiate
Yes.
yourself.
100%. Well, and I don't think people realize and understand that emotion is important, but emotion sometimes is not like crazy, crazy deep, even though there's a lot of depth to it. Like there's a lot of like connectivity that comes into play when it comes to emotion. But sometimes you don't need to go crazy deep, depending on the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
Sometimes making someone laugh is enough to get a purchase. That's the reason why Liquid Death is doing as well as they do, outside of just like they're differentiated in the market.
Yeah.
They just make people laugh. Like people just think they're funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they like crave some of their advertising because they're just different enough. And man, it's hard to be a human these days, guys. It's exhausting.
Mm.
So having something where you can accurately identify what people are craving currently is critical. Critical, critical. Because it'll change.
So tell me now, in terms of the results you get from these surveys, do you see scripts with them, or is it more image-based ads, or what are you doing?
Yes. Okay. So, Sarah's been like crazy, weird, hard at work this year trying to figure out like how to put this into a system.
Yeah.
So the CIM is one particular thing that we do at Tether. We run all of these particular surveys so that we can understand like who, when, what, where, why, and at which part of the funnel do we need to say these things. The secondary piece that we try and put in place is let's put a system around this. So we have another, I don't know what you call it, like a system that we call like Tether OS that basically pulls in all of this data, analyzes it, and assigns it a score based upon how well we think we can do with this particular ad. So is it pretty emotional? Is it pretty deep? Is it going to hit people in the correct spot? Like those type of things. Then from there, after we go ahead and prioritize it, we'll build it into these messages with just basically like three or I think right now we use three different prompts.
Okay.
So the first prompt is just to pull out what's the psychology in here. The second prompt is like, let's come up with some really interesting ad concepts. And then the third prompt is like, now script it, script it, script it. So I use the same system basically every single time because I find it so chaotic these days.
Imagine.
Creative strategy is one of the most chaotic jobs I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
Uh, I've simplified it down now where it's just a pretty much a three-step system. What's the psychology? Let's get the concept down and then script it and run it in that batch of 5 over and over and just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's head spinning now. Is there any questions you're leaving with, or should we open up to Q&A? Or is there something you still want to?
No, well, and that's basically the end of it is just like this style of survey can get you a whole lot farther. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please, I would love to hear because we've been doing this for a while now and I can't get enough of it.
As you can
It's so
see,
interesting.
as you can tell, guys, in the Q&A box, just type a question away. I won't need to bring you guys on as panelists. So does anyone have any questions? But I think before you guys have the questions, you have a done for you service, which we're doing because
Mhm.
it's a lot better if you do it for us. But you also have like this community, right, where they can kind of learn how to do it.
Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah.
So I have a school community. It's called the Tether Lab, where not only are we going through like how to build CIMs and how to like understand insights and break them down and how to apply them to advertising, but I also have a ton of work going into systems. I'm like real into systems this year, which I haven't been before. Mostly because I didn't realize the power of them until I started putting systems in my own business, and now I'm like, holy cow! Everything is a system. How you make coffee is a system, right? Like how you do work is a system. Creative strategy needs a system. So, yeah, if you guys are ever interested in just learning how to apply psychology to your brand, this is a good spot for you. But it's one of the only places that I've found to learn like true creative strategy is inside the Tether Lab. So, yeah, love to see
And
everybody.
if we're gonna, oh, here we go. How do you structure the survey questions? How do you know what to ask to get the most of it?
I have tested this so many times in so many different ways, and it's this is a great question. So, how do you know like which questions to ask? The very first thing I do before I even go into developing questions or choosing images or anything, I'll sit down with the team one to one and I'll be like, data dump. Like, give me everything you don't know about your customers so I know which data to go after. Typically it's I sit down with obviously like you guys, we sat down with two or three people on the call, and it was really interesting to see which department had what style of questions. So I always tell everybody I would love for your CFO to be in here. Like, let's get your CEO, your creative strategist, your media buyer, your customer service, like whoever you want. I want to get all of their questions too. So we go through and we map it out. We just write down all these different questions. So like, why are they purchasing? What do they believe about, our product? Are they price sensitive? Are they purchasing for somebody else? Who's involved in the purchasing process? We just dump it, dump it, dump it. Then I'll take those questions and throw them into chat and just have chat categorize them for me. Like, what's the top categories that we see in these questions? And it will go through and map it. Here's all the emotional questions that we need to solve. Here's the identity ones. Here's the behavioral ones. And then from there, I can say, okay, turn all of those questions into metaphors.
In
And that's
metaphor.
basically how I do
That's
it.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty simple. Mhm.
Yeah, I like that actually. Cool.
Yeah.
Another question. What is your best suggestion for a seven-figure brand on how to implement CIM, given that we have a low number of orders, customer surveys, and entry points compared to an established brand?
That's a great question. So I have been testing another platform called OneQ. That's it's a paid market research platform, but you can run any survey you want on it. This is a good way to go and get information pretty quickly if it's like we're just starting out and we don't have like a whole lot of data, we don't have a whole lot of traffic. It might be difficult for us to get answers inside the ad account. I prefer the ad account just because it's well suited to whoever your customer
I
is.
mean, it's
Like,
probably better question is that how many people do you need from the warm audience to
that's a good question.
make it statistically relevant?
Yeah. So I basically have two benchmark numbers that we go towards. We try and hit at least 150 answers. And you can think of this as like focus group size, right? So it's enough to give us really, really good data on what's happening, what these people feel. If you want to go like market size, where it's like we want to take a look at a ton of data so that we can make sure that like we understand the whole picture. That I think for statistical, like, yeah, for a statistical significance, geez,
Yeah.
you need about 1,800 is usually what we go
So,
for.
so what happens if you only get 100 surveys back? You think that's deemed enough in the warm audience? You really need a minimum 150. So if they're trying to do it themselves.
It's a good start, but like 100 people out of like millions and millions,
Yeah.
it's not like a ton. That's why I say even 150, it gives us a good snapshot of like, here's like a good group of people who are very well suited to our brand. This is the reason why I like running it through ad accounts.
Yeah, yeah,
These are
yeah.
people who like are Meta's drawing in.
How much did we spend on the cold audience to get it? Do you know?
Typically it costs somewhere between like 2,200 and like 3 grand,
Yeah.
depending on the ad accounts. So there's
And
a little bit of data collection involved
what was
for
the
sure.
company that you mentioned?
One Q.
One like
The
ONE
number one. Yep.
dot com.
One and then Q. Yep.
All right, just
And from what I've seen, it's pretty similar in cost.
okay,
So
cool.
doesn't seem to be like drastically different in cost over there. The only difference is they're not going to be people that are, at least pixel wise,
Okay.
like very aligned with your brand. This is straight cold traffic because one Q goes after like wide ranges of audiences. So yeah, I tend to go towards Meta first.
Good. We got another question. How do you frame the survey for existing customers? Are we just asking them to fill in a survey, or we give them something?
That's a good question. So, for existing customers, I like to frame all of the questions in the same metaphorical format. The only difference is now we reference the fact that they've already purchased. So, for instance, if we're selling makeup for a cold audience, I would say like if your makeup bag was a superhero, which one would it be and why? For your warm audience, I would say if our product were a superhero, which one would it be and why? That's
And
about the only difference you need. Is like,
in case he's asking it from this perspective, like cold audience, there's no incentive. Is
yeah,
that right?
no incentive.
And
I try
warm,
really hard not to incentive either one
oh
if we
really?
can.
I think warm audience we incentivized ours, no?
Yeah, we did.
We
For
did
you
actually.
guys, mostly because if I can't get people to answer, then
Yeah,
you sort of have to,
yeah,
like, just to get the data in. If you can, though, I always try and start with like no incentivization, just because it's possible, not always, but it's possible that incentivizing it might change how they answer.
yeah. We should have done ours in our VIP group. I don't know. We didn't.
That's
Happy
okay. You
sure.
can always run more. That's the nice part is like now you guys kind of know how to run one. You can build one yourself and you can just like, I
Yeah,
would suggest you run these at least once a month, but once a quarter is probably about like minimum
minimum.
because it will change about every 12 weeks. You'll see just a little bit different of behavior come in. So yeah.
Cool. Do you have any other questions? Silent. I don't think so. Well, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. I appreciate you
Oh,
guys.
here
Any
we go.
questions? You can
Here
come
we go.
find me, but yeah.
What was the name of the school community again? Tether.
School community. You can
Tether?
go to school.com/tether-lab.
You know, we should just put you in our community. You could have had the program in our community, and
I
then
know, I'd love to. That'd be so fun.
we got big
That'd be great.
plans. So I'll chat to you about it. Tether School. Tether, right? T
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yep.
T T H
Tether dash lab.
dash
School.com / tether dash lab.
dash lab. You guys check it out. It's only like $200 a month, is it?
Yep. Yeah. I think it's about that.
You can't lose. You can't lose.
Try
Impossible.
to stay cost effective for people.
I love it. Thank you so much. I think that's helped everyone a lot. I think I even learned on this call. So, like always, we appreciate you. You've been working with us the last 3-4 years, and I'm sure we can continue to work together in the future.
Yes. I can't wait. Your CIM is just about complete. So yeah, we're gonna be diving into data here pretty soon. So I can't wait.
All right, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chat
Bye
soon.
bye.